Being 5:01, I will call the meeting to order. This is Thursday, February 24th, 2022 at 5:01, and it's the Bristol County Water Authority monthly meeting.
Get rid of this. This popped up.
The first item is approval of reimbursement resolution. The information is contained. Was Sandy going to be with us for that, or?
Sandy, yeah, in fact, I had a meeting with Sandy even not just a few hours ago. She is not on, but that's why I had her front and center.
Thank you.
We move to something else and come back.
I can discuss it with you, but in essence, last month, Dan and I engaged our bond counsel, Sandra Mack, along with our financial advisors, Hilltop Securities, for the issuance of a new bond for our capital improvement program. And since that time, an RFP was issued on behalf of BCWA, and we actually received 4 good proposals yesterday. And those are being reviewed by our financial advisors and legal counsel. And we anticipate that we will be requesting a special meeting within the coming weeks for the approval of the bond issuer and the rate. However, before that, Sandy prepared a reimbursement resolution, which essentially allows us to pay ourselves back before the closing of that loan for any costs that we incur out of our general fund for these capital programs.
We'll entertain a motion to approve the reimbursement resolution of the Board of Directors of the Bristol County Water Authority.
So
Move
moved.
to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1,
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is unanimous. I will sign this and I'll put it in the mail tomorrow.
Thank you.
Public input. Is there anyone from the public attending? They're not. Okay, minutes. We have the minutes of the meeting.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, these are the minutes of Thursday, January 27th, the monthly meeting. Any corrections, questions, changes? Yes, Juan.
A minor thing, as is noted in the draft minutes of our board meeting last month. I requested that the rate presentation be attached to the motion as part of the record. So I think in this the public meeting minutes, I would like it to say, even though it says it's available on the website, I'd like to say that it's a part of the that's available by reference, or it is referenced as an exhibit to these minutes.
I think it should be an exhibit. Otherwise, you have to go 2 places.
Right.
Right.
Lauren can just include it in the official minutes that she keeps.
Right, and that's, to be clear, that's for the public hearing, correct? Because I did note it for the
Yes.
board meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
so also the public hearing, I do notice that I failed to list William Goslin as attending the public hearing, sorry. And I failed to include him in the attendee list.
You'll fix those.
Yes, I will correct that.
All right, with all those changes made and the noted that you're going to include this other material that Juan is referring to, all those in favor, please say no, raise your hand. It's easy to see that way.
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's unanimous.
Alan, I abstained from voting on that. I was not in attendance.
Now that was for the board meeting, not for the public hearing.
That
was the public hearing.
This is the public hearing. Yes, this is the public hearing.
Then the next one's for the board meeting.
Next one is for the board meeting.
I'll
Yes.
move the approval.
Moved,
Acceptance.
seconded. Any questions, changes? All those in favor, please raise your
Aye.
hand. And we have one aye. Everybody's there. Very good. Unanimous. Thank you. Executive Director report.
A report for February 24th, 2022. Connection to Pawtucket Water, with the winter months, construction obviously has come to a halt. Working on the final disinfection plan, so when the weather permits, the line can be disinfected, and once that's been approved, we can make the final tie-in connections. Phase 2 beta continues on the plan design. Mike and I will be meeting with them next week, and we will have the 30% submission. The plan for the demolition of the water treatment plant, the historical consultant is in the process of still gathering all the data they need, and they have scheduled a site visit for next week for the buildings and facilities so they can put together the plan required for the Historic Preservation Commission. Meter replacement program, we're still making appointments. I think we've changed out over 40 meters this past month. I think we're close to about 500 of the old style meters still left in the system. And particular emphasis has been placed on change outs within the meter pits.
Is there an estimate of when those 500 will be completed?
Well, it depends on how cooperative all the customers are. And it'll reach a point though where you know, after numerous attempts of trying to get a hold of folks, we might have to take some additional drastic action, you know, such as threatening shutoffs, you know, to get into the properties.
Some of these in areas where they've actually built out over where the meter is located and you can't get to it. Is that some of the issue? I think Joe Renata told us about some of those.
Yeah, if I could comment on that, we do have a list of problematic accounts where there is a lack of access or possibly plumbing issues. I don't have the exact amount offhand, but it's probably 100 or so of those 500. And those will be the challenging customers to make appointments with.
So if I understand what you're saying, it's that customers have somehow enclosed the meters in a way that makes it difficult to access them. So where I'm coming from, we should charge them if we need to change things so that they can be accessed.
I'm not sure that we can personally, as the water authority, go in and make modifications to private property.
No, I'm not suggesting we do it without their permission. But
Right.
if you're saying we cannot change the meter because they have somehow enclosed the meter in a way that makes it inaccessible, then I think at some point we're going to have to say, we're going to shut your water service off, or we are going to have to modify what you have done at your expense.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah,
if we put in a meter pit?
Or install a pit, right?
Right.
Put in a pit and just say, fine, the thing's going to stay there. It's disconnected. We're not reading it, but you're going to get a new meter. You have to pay for that.
Right. Now,
Suppose
and they'll incur that expense of putting in the pit.
Supposing
Exactly.
they object to putting a pit on their property.
Well, then they can drill a well.
It's not on their property, John. It'll be on the
Right.
street next on the
On
right of
on
way.
town property?
Yes.
On the right of way,
Okay.
that's where the pit will be.
Yeah.
And they'll have to, I mean, they get a line, there's a line coming from there anyway. And so we have to find out where the line is, and we just put a pit in there and charge them for it. That way you won't disturb what they've done. Anyway, okay,
Okay,
keep going.
all right. Dam removal project, we received the initial set of comments from two DEM agencies, Wetlands and Office of Water Resources, and our consultant, and we are in the process of preparing responses back to them. Water purchase charts are provided, typical for the month of January. And but due to the historic wet summer overall for this year, we remain slightly lower than the overall 5-year average. The water supply management plan has been completed. It's a 5-year update required by state regulations, and it was presented before the Water Resources Board on February 15th, and it was approved by that board on that same day after the presentation. So that's good. That's a project that's put behind us. I've already spoke regarding the bond issuance. I just put it in my report for informational purposes there. And under communications, I enclosed a letter that we sent to all the customers explaining all of our capital improvement programs and the rate increase for the coming fiscal year.
Okay. Questions?
Any questions?
One minor question. The water supply system management plan update, is it possible that that could be put on the website? Is it already on the website?
We can put that on the website.
Okay.
I guess the next one I've got here is from Mike.
Not too much else to add. The weather hasn't really been cooperating on the project front. Hope Street Pump Station is moving forward slowly, given the amount of snow, and then again with some weather anticipated tomorrow. But the foundation got in, and they're doing some underground work in advance of starting the vertical portion. Hopefully over the coming weeks, again, if the weather can cooperate. If tomorrow's weather doesn't muck up the site too much, we should have some more utility work scheduled for Monday. And then the weather also, it's making for an active break season. So I'm sure people have seen the guys out and around town. We've had an active few weeks. So they've been responding to those emergencies and attending to them as necessary. Other than that, that's about it.
Questions?
A minor comment.
Sure.
I noticed in figure 2, the photograph of the foundation of the Hope Street Pump Station actually has my address. And so if the water water board is going to buy my house, that's great.
Sorry about that. So that is actually an app based timestamp. So it picks it up via a cellular signal and assigns a geographical location.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a neat way to timestamp and give some spatial relationship to photos.
Okay.
Okay.
Mike, I have a question. Are your power requirements all met now? I saw a bunch of work done there by National Grid at the corner.
So temporary power's in. So the site has everything. You're talking Hope Street Pump Station?
Yes, sir. I saw that
Yep.
they put new poles in, and I thought the drops there were for your pump and everything else. Is that true?
No, we got the temporary, but we're still trying to figure out where, there's a lot of utilities on those poles already. So that's what we're still trying to figure out, is where we're going to pull the final power from. Given the amount of infrastructure on those poles, you can see that they rebuilt one, put a much beefier pole in, but we're still trying to figure out what pole we're going to pull from, either the one on the corner or the one just to the north on Hope Street.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, Susan, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. My report basically shows that we're not doing too much construction at the moment. It's a wintertime. D'Amber is on hold until the spring, when they'll start up on that northern section of Metacom. And we are out to bid at the moment for the project, the 2022 project, which includes, I listed the streets for you, several streets in each of the towns. We will be opening those bids next week. We did have a very good bid opening pre-bid meeting where we had several attendees from different contractors and subcontractors and suppliers. The only major issue that has been brought up is that there is going to be a lead time on the pipe and some of the other materials. So it's good that we're getting a little bit of an early start on this project. We will award it hopefully at next month's board meeting. And hopefully at that point, they can order the materials and still be able to install them later this summer. So I guess it remains to be seen how long of a delivery time will be on those materials, but we are out to bid and getting ready to move forward with that. I did get notification from the science fair people that they are doing a science fair again this year, a state science fair in person. So if the board is in support, BCWA has historically given awards to the kids that are doing projects from kids who live in East Bay and did projects on drinking water. I don't have the list yet, so I don't know if there are a lot of projects on drinking water, but if you're in agreement, we'll continue our involvement with that.
It seems that it's tailed off. Participation has tailed off in the last several years.
It is true that participation in science fair has dropped off from, say, 5 or 10 years ago, but also this year's participation is low coming off of COVID. I think with a lot of kids still working at home, schools did not participate that might have. I'm told by the science fair people that there are 160 projects total, and usually there's about 250, so it's a slight 2/3 reduction. But there might still be some drinking water projects.
I don't see any harm in us continuing our support.
No, we have anyone else object or not object? Then let's do it.
Okay.
Thank you. Randy's not here. Or did anyone have any questions for Susan? No.
Did you update the Gantt chart for the month?
I didn't. There hasn't been any change in the past, since there's no projects really moving forward. But you know what? I'll take a look at it, and I don't have the pump station. I don't believe. No, I do have it on there. So I'll add the progress from the pump station. Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Randy's not with us on this.
Randy's not here, but I just have one item to report on the IT
Sure.
front. We have our new phone system in, and it's been in for several weeks now, and it works great. There's a lot more features to it, and it's a little cheaper than our older system.
Who provided it?
Cox.
Cox, you say?
Yep. I mean, Joe, Joe's group answers the phone more than anybody else here, so.
We've had a couple of minor hiccups that were quickly addressed, and right now things seem to be working very well. So we're happy with it. It does what we need it to do. So no issues.
Good. And this means that if power goes out, you still have a way of communicating, as I understand it.
Right.
Okay, anyone have any questions?
It has several more features than what we had before.
Fair enough. Financial report. Dan?
All right, sorry about that. Took a second to find the unmute button. We have January in front of you. Obviously, the first couple of pages are the balance sheet, which we don't really go too much. Cash is still doing okay. We get to page 4, which is January 2022 versus January 2021. Versus last January, that specific month, we're down about 2.8%. Revenue wise, expenses were down about 4.5%. It looks like, let me see. Looks like last year there was just some higher office stuff last year. And I might just I don't like looking at month to month just because sometimes one or two little things can throw it off. So, you know, and that's the case. A lot of the differences is just one or two little things hitting a little bit different, and you kind of will see that on page 5. It kind of levels off. I mean, I know, let's see, depreciation and amortization looks really weird, looks really low. And that was just a matter of last year, we wrote off the remainder of some bond issue costs because Mark did that refinancing. So he wrote off the remainder. So that's an example of, I mean, that's $64,000 is pretty much that entire amount. Page 5, you have the year to date through January versus last January. And we've been saying it for a little bit now that we're starting to settle back to pre-COVID levels. Revenue's down about 3.8%, which is down a little bit from December. December was 3.9% lower. So kind of leveling off a little bit. And expenses are still off a lower 3.2%. And that's pretty much been the trend for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months. It's been pretty consistent. Expense wise, which makes sense. Page 6, we have revenue versus budget. Revenue is over budget, which is a good thing, by 6.3%. This is down a little bit since December, and again, we're just starting to eat into that, back into that pre-COVID level. It's starting to eat into that a little bit in July. And expenses, again, pretty consistent. It's been pretty much around 10% under budget all year, and it continues that way through January. I wouldn't expect too much of a change for February. There might be some changes just based on some things that you'll really only do at the end of the year, like capitalize some new assets and depreciate those. Vacation accrual you'll really only do at the end of the year. Maybe a little adjustment for inventory, but I really don't think it'll affect what we've been seeing the last 2, 3, 4 months. Page 7 through 9 is really the gallons and dollars billed and gallons delivered. We can see that the dollars billed are about 3.71% down from last year. The consumption is also down about 8.37%. And I think I mentioned this last month. I kind of on a whim, I kind of wanted to look back at the year before COVID just to see how we stand. And so we're down 8.37% versus January 21 for consumption, but we're only down 1.56% versus January 2020. So it just kind of shows how much the last year, prior year, was really helped by COVID. And I saw it on my water bill as well. Gallons delivered down a little bit. Yeah, all right. So the gallons delivered is down about 1.56% versus the prior year. And the dollars billed is actually up about 10.63%, which makes sense considering we did a 10% increase and then a 3.5% increase. So it's all flowing through. But again, I wanted to compare it to the prior year just to kind of get an idea, a little more apples to apples. Page 10 has your debt service ratio. It is 6.04 for January. It was 6.11 in December, still well above what we have to meet. And the last page is just a pension summary that shows you the gains and losses and contributions and withdrawals for the year. And January was not a spectacularly good month, and we took a hit of about $204,000. And then we had Mark's withdrawal went through the end of December for his retirement. He took a lump sum. So it's down a bit for January, but we had a very good year the prior year. So I mean, I guess all things seek their level, right? Water seeks its level.
Exactly. Any questions, anyone? Set, all set, thank you. Board member town reports, town council reports, questions, comments? Everything's quiet. Okay, we're going in the executive director annual goal. I guess you all got the item, and what I note from this is that 3 of the 4 were exactly the same. The original one said just progress with the capital plan, and the one that Steve put in was to plan for the demolition of the water treatment plant and planning for the new maintenance garage. So I have no problem with that. If you entertain a motion to accept the recommendation by Steve for the 4 principal goals.
Move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve. Any questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
It is done, unanimous. For the smart ball leak air pocket. Okay, little explanation, please, and we'll get
Hey, Mike,
going.
want to give an explanation on this one?
Yes. So Xylem Pure Technologies, we engaged them a couple of years ago with a few different technologies, one an electromagnetic scan and one an acoustic scan. We ended up going with the smart ball, the acoustic scan, to do the entirety of the East Bay pipeline. During that project, we found a small leak, and in the scale of leaks, it was quite small. So we were very impressed with over 7 miles it could find a leak, less than 10 gallons a minute, because those you don't find. So they last a very long time, end up consuming large amounts of water over many of years. So when we were looking at this pipeline that we're constructing now, we wanted to ensure that we had a sound product, and we wanted to ensure that during the warranty period that we're engaged with the contractor for. So we're still within the 3-year term of the original solicitation. So we went to Pure Technologies to seek out a cost to do the smart ball inspection of this new pipeline. And it'll do 2 things. It'll inspect the pipeline for leaks and integrity, but it'll also tell us if there's trapped air pockets, which can happen as a pipeline meanders through the route of its following the contour of the ground. We usually put the pipe in at a set depth from the surface, and obviously that can change throughout its alignment. So as the pipe meanders up and down, air can get trapped in. We do design in and install pertinences to try to mitigate that, but air can get trapped in there, and it inevitably creates a flow restriction, especially in a low pressure gravity line. So those are the 2 objectives of this inspection, and it's something we hope to do once the pipeline is in service for a few months, and hopefully with a leak we don't find anything. But again, we're still within that warranty period, and anything we have to address via excavation on this pipeline is going to be challenging because it is a deep pipeline.
So entertain a motion then to award a contract for the smart ball leak air pocket detection assessment of phase 1 pipeline for the amount of $58,334 as submitted by Xylem Inc. doing business as Pure Technologies.
So moved.
It's moved.
Second.
A second. Any discussion or questions?
Question.
I just one question for Mike. What is your rough estimate as to what percentage of leaks are right now without throughout the system?
How
Just a
many
rough
leak?
guess. Yeah, just what we lose percentage wise.
Well, we quantify unaccounted water every year, and we're around 10%. So,
10%?
wholesale.
How is that compared to other systems?
The metric is 15 to 12 to 15 or less. So we are doing well in that regards. Being a wholesale, we obviously want to minimize that as much as possible.
When they do this work, do they send the ball through more than once, or is it just once?
It's just one trip, yes.
And that they're able to get all the information on that one pass through, then I guess.
Yes, yes.
Ready to vote?
Question.
All those in favor of the motion?
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I was wondering, as we do all of the relining and everything else, is it beneficial if we have those additional entry points for this ball throughout the rest of the community, the rest of the system?
We definitely on the transmission mains because these are perfect solutions for that. As we get into the smaller mains, there are other technologies that are sometimes better suited for the locations. Once you get into the distribution system, you have homes drawing off. You can get other noises on the pipeline, and it's just a really, really sensitive microphone that's traveling through the pipeline. But leak detection, either fixed, deploy and shift, it's technologies that we're always trying to incorporate into the system to try to minimize, find those little service leaks, because they're the ones that go a gallon a minute or every minute of every day.
Thank you.
You're ready to vote? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
And again, it's unanimous. Thank you. Everybody has seen this. I guess the amount that's actually written off is $3,741, excuse me, $9,681.51. That seems to be a little bit more than in the past. Is that the case, Joe?
It is, but it isn't normal where the write-off is consistent quarter to quarter. It's how they fall. It was a bit higher for that quarter ending, and it might be a little bit higher for the next quarter ending because we're coming out of the winter months, and then we ramp up shutoffs and collections again. So they tend to tail off after the 30th of April.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I agree. I agree that the amount of the write-off is very small. It's an admirably low amount. On the other hand, I look at the amount written off and I look at the customer classes, and I see the residential tenant is the biggest culprit in Warren and Bristol. And I'll just make the comment that I don't know why we build the tenants other than to placate the property owner. And I think we should be always billing the property owner.
Yeah, I agree with you. We had a big go round a few years ago about that, and landlords came out in bulk, but they control the tenant. And I think we ought to go back and make that change.
There's some kind of a middle ground that could be found. Whereas the landlords, we may continue to bill the tenant, but clearly the landlord, unless he or she is an idiot, has an advance payment when they lease something. And so the landlord would have to sign an agreement with us that said, if the tenant does not pay, then you will be liable. And that way,
That would work. That would work.
we build a tenant, but the landlord has agreed that if the tenant doesn't pay, the landlord has to pay. That way, we're not billing the landlord on a consistent basis.
I actually wonder how many of the water authorities bill tenants, because my experience with Pawtucket is they bill the landlord. They never bill the tenants. And so I'd be curious to learn that.
I think you're right, Juan. I mean, I was actually surprised to see that you bill the tenants here. But there's a number of things to kind of consider in all this. And, one is that your write-offs are really low.
Right.
So if it's not really broke, and it's my understanding too that like what Gina said, when you attempted this before, you had a huge outcry.
It was like the anti-master
of the landlord population. So politically, you'll have a challenge of making that change.
Well,
Secondly,
here's
it may have, we'd have to take a look at it. It may have a issue with regarding some revenue because the number of accounts may potentially change. Because then we would not have meters at every unit, but just one meter potentially at each property.
I'm wondering if maybe there's a middle ground. If we know who owns the property where the tenant is in default, we can send a letter to the landlord.
Well, Joe, when you lean the
because if they're not paying us, if the landlord has a decent lease, they're in default of the lease.
Yeah.
Chances are, if they're not paying us, they're not paying the landlord either. That tends to be the way things go.
We'll dive into this a little more. We'll look into this.
Yeah, why don't you make a suggestion as to what you think?
All right.
Fair enough. Okay, executive session. We're going to go into executive session for.
Before we get off this subject, let me just ask a question.
Sure.
We eventually do recover some of these payments that weren't made. So I'm wondering if we might want to increase the penalty that we charge somebody for not paying on time.
You mean interest rates, that kind of penalty?
Exactly.
Well, we charge 1% per month.
That's not enough.
Until the account is written off. I think what will tend to happen.
I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just saying, as you look at this and come back to us with a suggestion, I don't think our paying customers should be subsidizing our non-paying customers. If there's anything we can do to fix that.
Okay, they'll come back with something. Now I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session. There are 4 items for litigation, all under 46.5A2, and that's North Farm, Providence Water Supply Board docket, the Rhode Island Department DEM notice of violation, and the Hope Street lead issue. And then we have 3 minutes to approve. Is there a motion for that effect?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Raise your hand if you agree. And everyone agrees. So we're going in at 20 minutes to 6. I guess we'll take a minute to clear things. Does anyone have to be excluded at this point, whatever it takes?
I'm going to say goodnight and
Okay.
see you guys next month.
Thanks for attending.
I'll be pausing the recording.
Start the recording. We have just returned from executive session. An item we want to, all we have to do is conclude the meeting at this point, if I understand.
You gotta move to seal the minutes of the executive session.
Pardon me. Motion to seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, and raise your hands if you approve. And I hear an aye from Gina. Okay, done. And now our next meeting, there's no action we're taking. Our next meeting is March 24th.
In the
With that in
headquarters.
mind, no further material, a motion to end our meeting.
Move to end.
Seconded, all those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
It is done. Thank you all.